It's all about that warfare, boy. Take ground. My soldiers take ground till I'm stand down. Take ground. My soldiers take ground till I'm stand down. Take ground. Nah, this ain't no movement, this a takedown. We will not be moved or intimidated. We ain't the type. You got a problem? Tell them cross the fucking line. My niggas ain't polite. Soldiers to the left and right. I die for every man body. Before I be a coward, I'd rather be a dead body. This will be my kingdom when the hour pass. You can either get with it or get flipped like an hourglass. We live by honor and no excuse. Just send the prayer up to the Lord. I told him, then let all the terrorists loose. Hold your tongue or get rebuked, cause you made a truce. With a race to make merchandise out of my abuse. Scared of who? You got your gun, then pull it. Me and my niggas start to argue, it's about who gon' bite the bullet. It gon' take round. Opponents better move slow. Attack dog for this truth, nigga, cool zone. Go to ground. It's all about that warfare, boy. Give ground. Back up. Give ground. It's all about that warfare, boy. Take ground. My soldiers take ground till I'm stand down. Take ground. My soldiers take ground till I'm stand down. Oh, thought you could cross us with no consequence, but you will pay dearly. You should've used your common sense. My zeal lit, that means you could never prevail. Hey, with a true sit, hey, with warriors 12. Be wise with them weapons, cause I promise. My nine just like my wife, she concealed, she modest. I know 2 things, a robber will not prosper. And any man harm me and my octave gon' meet the doctor. Cause this life is warfare, it's not an easy walk. Been watching my people die so you can miss me with that love talk. My UPK soldiers, any man try to cross your path, make him regret it. What that means? Fall on his ass. Comparing me to you really ain't no contest. Lonely one west. Say what? Lonely one west. This for those who thinking we ain't ready for. Tell them back up, I'm about to drop something heavy for. Go to ground. It's all about that warfare, boy.
Let's clap it up. Shalom Israel. This is history class. It's the Isupkbmore Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge. Started out of 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commanding General Yohana. Like we always tell y'all, we've been bringing this truth since 1969, and you can get no truth no place else but the Isupkbmore. Since 1969, we've been bringing this truth under Commanding General Yohana. This is history class, Monday history class, and we're going to delve into a little bit of our history. What we're going to do is we're going to look at the terrorist of the earth. We all know that our oppressor is the terrorist of the earth, but we're going to go through some history and come back up to today to see how we've been terrorized by our oppressor. Now, the only thing we can do to come up out of this terrorism from our oppressor is come back to the Most High, come back to the laws, statutes, and commandments. This is the reason why we are being terrorized today, because we don't follow the laws, statutes, and commandments. Because we transgress against the Most High, this is the reason why we're going through what we're going through. You understand? We choose to follow in the oppressor's way. You understand what I'm saying? We choose to follow our oppressor. And in following our oppressor, we transgress against the Most High. This is the reason why we are being terrorized to this day by our oppressor. The Most High gave the children of Israel He brought the children of Israel out of Egypt because they called on the Most High. We tend to want to call on our oppressor, the very people who terrorize us, who destroy us, who use us as their slaves. You understand what I'm saying? What we're going to do today, we're going to get into a few articles and we're gonna get into some scripture, and we're gonna talk about our oppressor today as a terrorist. This first article I want to get into is this life on Pine Ridge Reservation. So we're gonna talk about this, and before we get into that, I wanna grab Second Esdras. Before we start reading that article, I want to grab Second Esdras, chapter 6 and verse 9. We're gonna get into it. We're gonna get into it. You understand what I'm saying? Because listen, we have to understand that our time of oppression is up, but because we want to follow the customs and the culture of our oppressor, this is the reason why we're taking the beating that we're taking. You understand what I'm saying? We are being judged as a nation, and until we come back to these laws, statutes, and commandments, this is what we're gonna go through. You know? So with that, let's grab this Second Esdras chapter 6, verse 9, and we're gonna get into it. You got that?
Second Esdras, chapter 6 and verse 9. For Esau is the end of the world.
Can you read that for me again?
For Esau is the end of the world.
It says, for Esau is the end of the world. Listen, on January 6th, we saw Esau invade his own capital. You understand what I'm saying? And we as a nation of people, a lot of us were appalled at what we saw. You understand what I'm saying? When we should not be appalled at all. This is what terrorists do. Terrorists even attack their own. You understand what I'm saying? And we have to understand what we witnessed on January the 6th. We witnessed the beginning of the end of Esau's reign. You understand what I'm saying? But a lot of us, we think we are a part of America, and because we think we are a part of America, we felt sympathetic towards Esau because of what happened on that day. But us, the brothers in the Isupkbmore, we sat back, we had drinks, we ate popcorn and watched the festivities. We called it the festivities because it's a glorious thing to watch our oppressor, his kingdom, begin to fall. And the scripture says, for Esau is the end of the world. If Esau is the end of the world, go ahead and finish that, brother.
And Jacob is the beginning of that follows.
It says, and Jacob is the beginning of it that follows. If this is the beginning of Esau's fall, that means that there is another kingdom coming behind. You understand what I'm saying? And if Esau is falling, that means Jacob is rising. We are Jacob. We are the seed of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob are the progenitors of the 12 tribes of Israel, which is so-called blacks, Hispanics, and natives of the Americas and all of these lands that we are spread out across. The scriptures tell us that we are spread from throughout the four corners of the earth. You understand what I'm saying? Got something on that, brother? Okay. No, we are spread throughout the four corners of the earth, but you have a lot of us who are in the so-called America, the North America, the Central America, South America, like that. We got some brothers in the Caribbeans. We are all over, but the majority of us are in those places. You understand what I'm saying? And it says, for Esau is the end of the world. Esau's kingdom is crumbling right now, and that's what we witnessed on January the 2nd, on January the 6th. And like I said before, if Esau's kingdom is crumbling, that means Jacob is rising. That means we should be rising. We have to come back to these laws, statutes, and commandments. Let's get into this article right here. Okay? You got that, brother?
Life on Pine Ridge Reservation.
Salakia, before you finish that, right there, that little spot right under this, that title right there is important for you to read that, where it says photographer. Can You see that?
Photographer Q. Sakameki documents the lives of the Lakota people of Pine Ridge Reservation, South Dakota, a community defiant in the face of oppression.
It says the community is defiant in the face of oppression. Listen, who is the oppressor of the earth? You understand? That's what we have to understand. Who is the oppressor of the earth? We understand that these so-called Native Indians, these are our brothers. The so-called Native Indians, the so-called Hispanics are our brothers. And then we have to understand that. And they're being oppressed in the same way that we are being oppressed. You understand what I'm saying? When we look at these reservations, we think that these reservations are, we think that the so-called Native Indian are free to roam and free to do what they want to do on these reservations, when that is the furthest thing from the truth. You understand what I'm saying? They are being oppressed even on the land that the U.S. government says they have given them. You understand what I'm saying? How can you give somebody something that they already own? You understand? But they place them on a reservation, which is, in retrospect, are concentration camps. Go ahead, you can start that article.
Established in 1899, prisoner of war camp number 334, aka Pine Ridge Reservation, is home to the people of the Oglala Lakota tribe, and has been ever since they were forced to abandon their native lands by the U.S. government.
You hear that right there? It says the Lakota tribe, and has been ever since. Listen, this is the home of the Lakota tribe, and has been ever since they were forced to abandon their native lands by the U.S. government. You understand what I'm saying? They were robbed. The things that were theirs were taken from them. You understand? They were terrorized. Listen, the so-called European came over here and destroyed our brothers, the Native Indians. You understand what I'm saying? They made it seem like they were making a truce with them. They wrote over 177 peace treaties and broke every one of them. You understand what I'm saying? Go ahead.
It was also the site of the Wounded Knee Massacre, the largest slaughter of innocent men, women, and children on American soil. A fact that often gets ignored when the U.S. media reports on mass shootings.
Of course, it's gonna get ignored when they start to report on mass shootings, because the United States does not want to sit and face the atrocities that they have done to the people on this land. You understand what I'm saying? They don't want to face those facts, because they know that they are the terrorists of the earth. They know that they raped, robbed, and pillaged the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and natives, you understand, on this land. And they are doing it until this day. You understand what I'm saying? We are being destroyed by our oppressor. We look at all of these other countries, just like the United States is trying to tell that country, what's that, Myanmar. You understand? What's that, Asian country, that they gonna bring up charges of human rights charges against these people in a whole nother country, when they are destroying the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and natives right here in this land. They doing the same atrocities to us. You understand? They doing the same atrocities to our people that those people are doing to their own people. You understand what I'm saying? Now, these people are destroying their own people. So let those people do what they do. But the terrorist attack is a nation of people destroying another nation of people, not a nation of people destroying their own people. You understand? And then how can you tell another country of people that you're going to bring up charges against them when you're doing the same atrocities in your own land? You understand? If you can, brother, Can we grab Psalms 55 and 21? Psalm chapter 55, verse 21. You understand? Because they make all of these laws and they make all of these rules and they lull us to sleep with everything that they do. You understand what I'm saying? And they make us feel comfortable. You understand what I'm saying? They make us feel comfortable and then they give us the whammy. You understand? Then they begin to destroy us. You understand what I'm saying? Just like this, think about this thing, this trial with this George Floyd thing coming up. You understand? We actually witnessed a terroristic murder on TV. You understand what I'm saying? We witnessed a murder on TV. And now they trying to say that George Floyd, the knee on his neck wasn't the cause of death, but because he had drugs in his system and because he had underlying diseases and because he was the size that he was. I heard all of this on CNN today. You understand what I'm saying? And I mean, this is what terrorists do. They make the murder and the robbery and the rape that they do, they make it as though it was justified. Go ahead.
They want you to believe that the murder that you saw on that video
Go ahead and
was
say
really a suicide.
Exactly.
It was a suicide because what he actually did was ingested some drugs at the time that the officer was trying to arrest him. The officer accosted and murdered him.
Exactly.
He was begging the officer to get off his neck. People in the crowd was begging the officer to get off of his neck. But the racist supremacists want you to believe that what you witnessed, the horrific murder that you witnessed, was actually really a suicide. Don't believe your eyes.
Exactly. It was so profound that you will bring that up because now I don't want to get too far off, but they also brought up a previous encounter with him with the same Minneapolis police. You understand? And the whole thing is, and it was just a little sidebar, even when you watched them pull him up then, they had already had their guns out when they just wanted to check him. You understand? And not only that, they said he had ingested some drugs at that time. You understand? So what they're trying to do is set a pattern and make it look like a justifiable murder. You understand? You can't have a justifiable murder unless a man attacks you. You understand? That's in the scripture. And I'm just paraphrasing. You understand what I'm saying? But they trying to make it seem like police officer Kawan Palak said, they want you to believe that the murder that you saw wasn't a murder, but an actual suicide. But anyway, let's get back to that scripture that we got. Got that?
Done. Psalm 55 and verse 21. The words of his mouth.
Hey, can we Salakia? I'm sorry, my fault. Sir. Can you start at 20?
Done. Psalm 55 and verse 20. He hath put forth his hands against such as be at peace with him.
It says he hath put forth his hand as such as be at peace with him. Listen. This is what happens to us every day as the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and natives. We get so trusting in the very people who have it in their mind that they are set out to destroy us. He had put forth his hand as such that be at peace with him. We want to be at peace with these people so much so that the things that they do to us, we look at it as, well, he must have did something. You understand? The white man ain't gonna kill him, or he ain't gonna do that to him for nothing, and we get lulled to sleep by this stuff. He had put forth his hand as such that be at peace with him. Every time one of our brothers or sisters are murdered on this street, it's unjustifiable. It's always when our people are at peace. You understand? We always being pulled over for no apparent reason. We are being destroyed because we are too trusting of a people. Go ahead.
He had broken his covenant.
Go ahead.
Verse 21. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter.
This is just what we were just talking about. Even in the language, when you get into their courts, the words of their mouth are smoother than butter. It gets you to thinking that, well, maybe he did do something to deserve what happened to him. The words of his mouth are smoother than butter. Have you ever heard of the word etymology? You understand? It's what our oppressor uses as a play on words. You understand? To get you to think one way when in actuality he's speaking in another way. You understand what I'm saying? It says the words of his mouth were smoother than butter. Go ahead.
But war was in his heart.
It says, but war was in his heart. And this is what we have to understand about our oppressor. War is always in his heart. You understand? It is nothing else in him but war, mayhem, murder, robbery, pillage, rape. All of these things are of our oppressor. You understand? Our oppressor was the first gangster on the earth. Our oppressor was the first drug dealer on the earth. Our oppressor embellishes and encompasses the homosexuality spirit on the earth. You understand? Look at his laws. Look at the laws. Now in America, it is okay for a man to marry a man and a woman to marry a woman, when we all know that that goes against everything that the Most High has given us. You understand what I'm saying? It's the words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. Everything that he does, every law that our oppressor makes is to further destroy and keep us down. Every law that he makes is to grind us more and more and more into powder. That's what's happening to our people right now. You understand what I'm saying? And us as a people, we look at voting as a privilege. You understand what I'm saying? Now, the thing, I don't want to veer too far off, but this is how our oppressor thinks. Now you have people in Georgia basically taking that so-called right to vote from the people of Georgia. You understand what I'm saying? So if our oppressor can sit in Georgia and take that right from our people, what was that whole civil rights march and all of that movement for? It was for nothing. You understand? The Christian church has totally destroyed our people along with our oppressor. The Christian church and Christianity is the custom and culture of our oppressor. And when we choose to follow our oppressor, we choose to be ground down into powder by our oppressor. You understand? Let's get back to that article. Salakia. I'm sorry. Salakia, sir. Yes.
Psalm 55, verse 21, middle. His words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords.
His words were softer than oil, yet they were drawn swords. Listen, our oppressor, he lulls us to sleep with his words, but he is all ready to put you, to hang you out to dry, or to hang us out to dry. You understand what I'm saying? He's ready to demolish and destroy us. You understand? You understand? Listen, this is the reason why police walk up to our brothers and say, hey, what you doing? You understand what I'm saying? I'm here to serve and protect, when they were never here to serve and protect. They are only here to destroy us. You understand what I'm saying? The words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. His words, he said, what did it say? But war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords. When they speak to us, when they get you to talking, when they get you in the courtroom, the words that they speaking are to get you to destroy yourself. Everything that they saying to us is to destroy us. They make it sound sweet. They make it sound soothing to the ear, but they are only here to destroy us. This is what the oppressor does. You understand? They are the true terrorists on the earth. And believe it or not, like we said before, Esau is the end of the world. You understand? And Jacob is the beginning of that to come. You understand? Go ahead. Let's hit that back to that article.
On 29 December 1890, troops from the U.S. 7th Cavalry Regiment went into the South Dakota camp on a mission to disarm Black Coyote, a deaf man. While he was performing a ritual called the Ghost Dance, the rifle in question went off, and the U.S. soldiers charged the Lakota people who had been disarmed. By the time they were done, some 800 innocent Lakota men, women, and children had been killed.
Did you hear that? Did you hear that? They went to disarm one blind man who was doing a ritual dance, right? It said the rifle in question. Whenever they say that, right, that means that means that they aligned. The rifle in question went off. Who had the rifle in question? They didn't say that the elderly man who was doing the ritual dance shot his rifle. They said the rifle in question. This is how our oppressor destroys us. This is what it means. This is just what it means when it says his words were softer than oil, yet they were drawn sword. They're giving themselves the window to justify murdering 300 men, women, and children. You understand what I'm saying? And they trying to make it seem like it was justified, but it was hardly anything but justified. It says the rifle in question went off, and the U.S. soldiers charged the Lakota people who had been disarmed. Listen, it says they had already been disarmed. So why would you engage and begin to fire upon people who were already disarmed? You understand what I'm saying? Go ahead.
The U.S. government awarded medals of honor to 20 soldiers in the massacre at the time, only to express deep regret for the slaughter a century later, as reported by the New York Times in 1990.
It said the government awarded medals of honor to 20 soldiers in the massacre at the time. They got awarded medals of honor. Think about it, right? How do you award somebody a medal of honor who didn't get a bullet shot at them, but only shot and massacred people? You understand? Only to express deep regret. And this is what they always do. They act like they're expressing deep regret. You understand? Or they heard about something always 100 years later, always 70, 80 years later, 200 years later. You understand? This is what our oppressor does. And then we sit and, oh, well, they acknowledge that they acknowledge what they did was wrong. You understand what I'm saying? But the whole thing is it doesn't bring back any of those lives. Nobody got arrested. Nobody was prosecuted for murdering 300 men, women, and children. And this is why we have to move away from this terrorist or so-called oppressor that we are living under. You understand what I'm saying? We have to get away from our oppressor, but we are too locked in into this custom and culture of these people. You understand what I'm saying? You can see that our oppressor has hatred in his heart for us. You understand? We have to be a caring and loving people to our own people. You understand? And that's the problem with us too. You understand? Is that we care so much about how our oppressor feels about us that we forget to show that same love to our own people. You understand? And if you think about it, a lot of us don't even know about any of this history. You understand? We know a lot about American history, but we don't know about the history of our own people. You understand? And that's what we have to sit down and do. We have to sit down and learn about us. You understand? One thing that we have to understand, the first thing we have to understand is that we are not African. You understand? We are from the 12 tribes of Israel. We are of the 12 tribes of Israel. We are the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We have to understand that the rulership that we are under today is our oppressor, and our oppressor is here to destroy us and keep us down. Now, like we said before, the scripture says, for Esau is the end of the world. Like we said before, we watched the beginning of the fall of his kingdom. You understand? We just watched the beginning of the fall of his kingdom. And if this is the beginning of the fall of his kingdom, that means that this is the beginning of the rise of Jacob's kingdom. This is the beginning of our rise. How do we overcome and how do we rise above our oppressor? Well, first off, we have to come back to the laws, statutes, and commandments. We have to get up into this Isupkbmore, Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge, and we have to learn about these laws, statutes, and commandments. We have to learn what these scriptures mean. These scriptures are historical facts. These scriptures is history, but it's also practical knowledge. This is for yesterday, today, and tomorrow. These scriptures are what brings us back to the Most High and brings that kingdom. Look, the scripture says the kingdom of heaven is at hand. All we have to do is follow these scriptures and do what these scriptures say, and we will be on top. You understand what I'm saying? So, if I can, yeah, that's what I was going to say. Move to the next one. That would be the
Zoot Sweet Riots. Zoot Riots.
If anybody knows, zoot suits are the suits that the brothers Hispanics and Negroes used to wear back in like the 30s, the 40s, and the 50s. It was a style where the pants were real baggy, the jackets were real long, and the shoulders were broad. The shoulders stood out like this, and they would wear those wide-brimmed hats. Those are zoot suits. At the time when the zoot suit came out, it was around the time of World War II. And in World War II, what happened was, it was supposed to be a shortage on cotton. This is the excuse that they give. There you go. Now I was getting ready to hit that for you. Exactly, that's a zoot suit. And just what Spike Lee and Denzel Washington, the suits that they had on, and it's also, if you notice, it had the long watch chain hanging down too. That was a part of the whole thing. And if you looked at their shoes, the shoes had a thick heel. This was the zoot suit. The zoot suit was, this is how you know that they are brothers, right? The zoot suit was Black and Hispanic culture. This came through us. You understand what I'm saying? And that style was specifically to the Blacks and Hispanics. And this is what our oppressor didn't like. You understand what I'm saying? So what they did was they made up a propaganda. They used the propaganda well, we're going to read it in the article. Go ahead.
Yeah. The Zoot Suit Riots were a series of violent clashes during which mobs of U.S. servicemen, off-duty police officers, and citizens brawled with young Latinos and other minorities in Los Angeles. The June 1943 riots took their name from the baggy suits worn by many minority youths during that era. But the violence was more about racial tension attention than fashion.
Right. Listen, check this out, right? It was never about the fashion. You understand? It was about who was wearing the fashion. And because blacks and Hispanics were wearing the fashion, this made it an easy target. You understand what I'm saying? And what our oppressor really didn't like was when the blacks and Hispanics wore those zoot suits, it was attractive to the so-called white woman. You understand? And the white woman liked it. And this is the reason why when the sailors would come into port, they would get into all kind of skirmishes and fights and everything with the so-called blacks and Hispanics behind the zoot suit, and they would blame it on the zoot suit because, it was supposed to be a shortage of cotton and they weren't following law or whatever you call it when you supposed to help out so-called America, right? Go ahead. Before you get into that, let me just read this part right here, because I got the different article than you have. It says, Mexican American youth, the latter of whom wore outfits called zoot suits. The zoot suit consisted of a broad-shouldered draped jacket, balloon-leg trousers, and sometimes a flamboyant hat. Who that remind you of? Without the hat. You ever see MC Hammer? Remember when MC Hammer first came out? That's who that remind you of. Mexican Americans youth who wore these outfits were called zoot suiters. These individuals referred to themselves as Pachuas, a name linked to Mexican American generation's rebellion against both the Mexicans and American culture. It wasn't a rebellion against American culture. It's just like anything else that we do. We always start culture. You understand what I'm saying? And then everybody else takes our culture and benefits off of it. If you notice, going through was it the 50s and the 60s where you seen white men wearing baggy suits like that? They weren't as baggy, but they began to wear them. Go ahead, finish that.
What is a zoot suit? During the 1930s, dance halls were popular venues for socializing, swing dancing, and easing the economic stress of the Great Depression. Nowhere was this more true than in the uptown Manhattan neighborhood of Harlem, home of the famed Harlem Renaissance.
You can stop that right there. That's what we was just now talking about when you just asked about that movie, that Malcolm X movie. That's where a lot of those, it happened. It was in the West Coast and it was on the East Coast. Basically, that, like I said, that was our culture. They used our culture to destroy us. That's the only thing that they were doing. I want to grab a scripture too. I want to grab Jeremiah chapter 14, verse 2.
The book of Jeremiah, chapter 14 and verse 2. Judah mourneth.
Say it again.
Judah mourneth.
It says Judah mourneth. Who is Judah? Judah is the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and natives. You understand what I'm saying? It says Judah mourneth. Why is Judah mourning? Judah is mourning because we are being destroyed by our oppressor. You understand what I'm saying? Because we are being destroyed and ground into powder by our oppressor. Go ahead.
And the gates thereof languish.
It says, and the gates thereof languish. What does a gate do? A gate either keeps something in or keeps something out. A gates protect. You understand what I'm saying? Who is supposed to protect us? Our leaders are supposed to protect us. The politicians, the preachers, and the pastors, these are supposed to be our protectors. You understand what I'm saying? But it says, and the gates thereof languish. What does that mean, languish? What does that mean? Languish means basically to be what's the word? Lacking, but It's not doing the job that they're supposed to do. You understand what I'm saying? It's broken down. Our leaders are lacking. They are not doing the job that they're supposed to do. They are supposed to be protecting us from our oppressor. You understand? And we got a whole lot of so-called blacks, Hispanics up in these high positions in the Senate, in the House of Delegates. We got black councilmen. We have all of these brothers and sisters in so-called leadership positions, but we are still being destroyed. And as a matter of fact, we're being destroyed more than ever right now. You understand? It says, and the gates thereof languish. They supposed to be protecting us, but they are allowing the terrorists of the earth to continually destroy us. You understand? And every time we think that we're gonna get some kind of reprieve from the things that are happening to us, they allow it to slip right through their fingers. They allow it to slip right through their hands. They allow our oppressor to walk away with no unscathed. You understand what I'm saying? We are destroyed people because our gates languish. Our leaders are allowing the wolf to eat the sheep. You understand what I'm saying? Go ahead.
They are black unto the ground.
It says they are black unto the ground. You know, Judah, so-called blacks, Hispanics, and natives, we come in many colors. You understand what I'm saying? Our people are in the darkest dark and the lightest brown. You understand? Go ahead.
And the cry of Jerusalem is gone up.
It says, and the cry of Jerusalem is gone up. Listen, the Most High is hearing the cries of Jerusalem. He is hearing the things that we are going through. You understand? This is the reason why he is causing our oppressor to cave in on himself. You understand? This is the reason why we saw what we saw on January the 6th. We saw the oppressor attacking his own capital. You understand? Because the cries of Jerusalem is gone up. The Most High is hearing the cries of his people. And that's the whole gift behind it. You understand? But you also had the Hispanics in 1943. You also had them being hung just like we were. They were beating these people out in the street. They were stripping them naked, burning their clothes out in the street. You understand? If it was just a thing of we supposed to be conserving, then why would they sell them? Why would they sell them these things? You understand what I'm saying? It's not. It's just a reason for them to come out and to continually destroy us with no reprieve. And if you look a little deep into the article, they talk about after this was like a 5-day riot. This was a 5-day riot, this Zoot Suit riot, that they arrested over 500 people. And to no amazement, none of those were of our oppressor. They arrested all of our people. You understand what I'm saying? Which is what they always do. You understand? When it's time to move in and arrest anybody, we are always the ones being arrested. We are always the one being placed into the go ahead, into the yep.
Style conscious Harlem dancers begin wearing loose-fitting clothes that accentuated their movements. Men donned baggy trousers with cuffs carefully tampered to prevent tripping. Long jackets with heavily padded shoulders and wide lapels. Long glittering watch chains and hats ranging from pork pies, and fedoras to broad-brimmed sombreros.
Hats. It's the same thing, but if you think about it, right? Think about it. Now we can go back to World War I, right? You go back to World War I when our so-called oppressor destroyed Black Wall Street. It was the same thing. Our oppressor was going through a depression, and he had to look across from him and seeing our people prospering. You understand? In 1943, they're going through another depression, and they had to look across and see our people prospering once again. You understand? And whenever they see us prosper, they have to come in and they have to destroy us. When we stand up and we fight for ourselves, or they see any kind of dignity in our people, they have to come and they have to destroy it. You understand what I'm saying? But the time is going to come when the Most High is when Christ is going to return, and these people are going to be destroyed. You understand? We have to be diligent. We have to come back to these laws. We have to come back to the Most High so that these people can be the tail and we can be the head. Right now, we are the tail and they are the head. You understand what I'm saying? And as long as we continue to follow them, remember, the tail always follows the head. And whenever you follow your oppressor, you'll always be the tail. The tail always follows. You understand what I'm saying? Let's go on. You got any more on that? All right, let's go to that next, that final article that we got. Let's go to that final article. And before we read that article, I want to go to Ecclesiasticus 12 and 10.
The book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 12 and verse 10, never trust thine enemy.
It says never trust thine enemy, and that's a problem with us, is we are too trusting of a people. You understand? We trust in our enemy so much, we trust in the oppressor so much that we don't trust our own people. You understand? Look, the scriptures say that the kingdom of heaven is at hand. And in the beginning of the kingdom, we have to trust our own people. Christ says, look, it says, gather yourselves together. Yea, gather yourself together, O nation not desired. The only way we're going to gather together is if we have trust in our own people. You understand? And we have to stop trusting our enemy. That's the problem with us. We trust in his laws. We trust in his system. We trust in his voting system. Voting has gotten us nowhere since 1965. You understand? We keep talking about our people fought for the right to vote. We died for the right to vote. I've seen people die for the wrong things every day. You understand? And that does not make it right because you die for it. You understand? And we have to learn to live for the right thing. Living for the right thing is living for these laws, statutes, and commandments. Living for the Most High. You understand? It says, never trust thine enemy. Go ahead.
For like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness.
It says, for like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness. We watch the wickedness of the oppressor having his knee on George Floyd's neck. And as we watched his knee on his neck, we seen that iron begin to rust. We seen the real beast begin to show through. You understand? He arrested him with no issue. He put handcuffs on him with no issue. And then all of a sudden, the iron began to rust. He placed George Floyd on the ground, then put his knee upon him after he had already subdued him. You understand? As iron rusted, so is his wickedness. Listen, as much as he seems like he for you, eventually the wickedness is going to show through. The real him is going to show through. The real properties of his character is going to show through. And what we saw when that George Floyd film was just his wickedness showing through. Go ahead. Let's go to that. Go ahead, read that. Finish that. No, we're going to go to...
11?
Yeah, go ahead.
Ecclesiastes 12 and verse 11. So he humbled himself and go crouching, yet take good heed and beware of him.
Listen, though he go crouching and humble himself, Listen, he got George Floyd comfortable. You understand what I'm saying? He got George Floyd comfortable enough to put them handcuffs on him with no issues, no problem. You understand? It says, though he humbled himself and go crouching. Listen, he was crouching. He knew exactly what he was going to do. You understand what I'm saying? Yet take good heed and beware of him. Listen, we cannot trust in these people. You understand? Their whole goal is to keep us in oppression. You understand? And because we follow the customs and culture of this people, we stay in oppression. We stay an oppressed people. You understand? We have to get back to these laws, statutes, and commandments. The Most High tells us how we come up out of oppression. We have to come up out of oppression by gathering ourselves together. You understand? O nation, not desire. He lets us know that we are a nation of people, not desire. And it shows every day we watch the news and watch our people being destroyed right there in front of our very eyes. You understand what I'm saying? Go ahead.
And thou shalt be unto him as if thou hadst wiped a looking glass.
Go ahead.
And thou shalt know that his rust have not been altogether wiped away.
It says, and thou, as though thou hast wiped a looking, listen, it's going to be like, this is what happens to us, right? And it's always at the last minute, and it's always too late that we see that rust has not all been wiped away. You understand what I'm saying? Just like wiping a looking glass, then all of a sudden you shocked and you see that, oh, this man is evil. But by the time you find out and you realize that he's evil, his knee is on your neck and being destroyed. Racism is still exactly. Racism is still around. By the time you look up, it's too late. Think about this, right? By the time we look up, we have already been destroyed. You understand what I'm saying? And this is how our oppressor operates. Our oppressor has a system that lulls us to sleep. Think about, just like we talked about this months ago, when they send us to school, they are already putting the propaganda in our heads, having us saying the Pledge of Allegiance. Who do you pledge your allegiance to? You pledge your allegiance to a system that is set to destroy us. You understand? This school system is a pipeline from school to the prison system. You understand what I'm saying? And our people continually force feed propaganda into our own people's heads. You understand? Go ahead, finish that. Okay, you can drop that. Let's go to that article.
Yeah. The day Philadelphia bombed its own people. An oral history of a 1985 police bombing that changed the city forever.
Let me ask you a question, Salat here, sir. Let me ask you a question. In 1985, do you remember this happening?
Not in 85.
I don't remember it in 85. And this is because our oppressor is so evil and so wicked.
Yeah.
He can put everything he wants you to see and hear in front of your face so that you don't see the real issues destroying us. You understand what I'm saying? So that in 1985 they bombed Philadelphia and most of us knew nothing about it.
Yeah.
And then if they would have came and bombed us, we would have been like thinking that, oh, this only happened to us. This is how our oppressor operates. We have been lulled to sleep by our oppressor's propaganda to the point that some of us are just finding out about this. You know, it wasn't until a few years ago that I heard about this. You understand what I'm saying? And I ain't even going to say my age because it's kind of disheartening. You understand? Not to know what's going on with our people. But like we said, the propaganda has been laid on us from the beginning of our youth. You understand? As soon as we come into school, they're having us pledge allegiance to a flag, to a people who are only set to destroy us. You understand? They don't give us real history. They give us their history. so that we are unknowing about our own history. Go ahead.
Done. As the smoke rose from 6221 Ostrich Avenue, Philadelphia residents watched through their windows or television screens in a state of stunned disbelief. Their city had just bombed its own people on the evening of May 13th, 1985.
Before you finish that, sir, listen to that last line. It says their city had just bombed its own people. They didn't just bomb their own people. They bombed so-called blacks, Hispanics, and natives. They didn't bomb their own people. They bombed us. You understand what I'm saying? And that's another piece of propaganda right there. They want to make you believe that, oh, we are all one big melting pot, when they only bombed a black neighborhood. You understand what I'm saying? And they had no regard of life. Go ahead.
On the evening of May 13th, 1985, long-standing tensions between MOVE, a black liberation group, and the Philadelphia Police Department erupted horrifically. That night, the city of Philadelphia dropped a statue bomb, a demolition device typically used in combat, laced with Tavax and C4 explosives on the MOVE organization, who were living in a West Philadelphia row home known to be occupied by men, women, and children.
It says, listen, this is horrible right here in itself. It says that night the city of Philadelphia dropped a statue bomb, a demolition device typically used in combat. Listen, they dropped this in the middle of a community. But why are we surprised? You understand? I'm not saying that the Asians or, Japanese are our people, but they dropped a nuclear bomb on the so-called Hiroshima and Nagasaki. You understand? And destroyed those people. You understand what I'm saying? This is just what they do. Regardless of who you are or where you are at. You understand? They are the terrorists of the earth. You understand? It says that night they dropped C4. This is stuff that you use in war. You understand? This is wartime explosives on civilians. Go ahead.
61 homes were destroyed, and more than 250 civilians
Salakia,
were
sir,
left homeless.
for a minute. Salakia, sir. Move back up. You had move back up one sentence. It says it went up. Right after the men, women, and children.
Who were living in West Philadelphia row home known to be occupied by men, women, and children. It went up in unextinguished flames. 11 people were killed, including 5 children and the founder of the organization.
It says it went up in unextinguished flames. They didn't even try to put it out. You understand what I'm saying? And then all right, we're gonna finish it, but this is a beast that we living under. You understand? We have to understand who is over top of us. You understand? This is the terrorist of the earth. And like we said before, it doesn't matter who you are or where you are or where you live at. They're going to do what they have to do to inflict the most pain or the most destruction imaginable. You understand? It doesn't matter where you are. Go ahead, finish that.
including 5 children and the founder of the organization. 61 homes were destroyed and more than 250 citizens were left homeless.
It says 61. Listen, they were trying to bomb one home, and 61 homes were destroyed. You understand what I'm saying? If you bombing a house, a row house, everybody knows row houses are attached to the next house, the next house, the next house. How do you bomb one house, expecting to only bomb one house? You understand what I'm saying? This oppressor is a beast. You understand what I'm saying? They have no regard to life, our lives anyway. You understand? We are so trusting in this oppressor, but look what he does to us. He destroys men, women, and children regardless. You understand? How can you sit and not feel some kind of remorse after murdering children, after murdering women, after murdering men? You understand what I'm saying? Innocent men. You understand? People who didn't even, in this situation, it's not even like they fired on them or there was a firefight. They just came in and bombed. You understand what I'm saying? This is just how our oppressor is. It says it went up in unextinguished flames. They let it burn. You understand? They let it burn. 11 people were killed, including 5 children, and the founder of the organization, a peaceful organization. You understand? Just because an organization is set out to protect itself does not make it not a peaceful organization. You understand? And this is what our oppressor does. You understand? They dropped a statue bomb, a demolition device, typically used in combat, laced with Tovex and C4 explosives. They didn't just use C4. They used demolition devices used in combat and Tovex and C4 mixed. They planned on destroying these people and anybody living in and around them. You understand? I'm surprised more people weren't killed in this. And I wouldn't be surprised if there were more people killed. You understand? This is the propaganda of our oppressor. This is what he does. He makes it seem like, it's not as much as it was, but it's a lot. I know it was probably more people died than that. I know it was. Go ahead, finish reading that.
For the next several years, the confrontation would be remembered as an ordeal that transformed the fabric of the city. The show of force, unjustified to many, solidified mistrust between Philadelphia's residents and the government. The story is a parable of sorts. It's a parable of how the unthinkable comes to happen, said Jason Osdeer, the director of Let the Fire Burn, a documentary about the bombing. It's a tragedy. In my opinion, everyone who was an adult in the city failed that day. Collectively, the whole city failed.
See that right there? See that right there? Listen, this is the reason why we destroy people. The oppressor destroyed us, and then we want to blame everybody. We want to put blame on everybody instead of pinpointing the oppressor. You understand? We want to make it seem like we are one big melting pot and everybody's going to take the blame when only one person should take the blame, and that's our oppressor. But because we so destroy, and because we think we are Americans and we think we are included in this Constitution, we want to include ourselves. We killed ourselves. How does that sound? You understand what I'm saying? Listen, it says the story is a parable of sort. Mistrust between the Philadelphia residents and government. It's a parable of how unthinkable comes to happen. And the thing that I want to ask is, how can we think it's unthinkable? This is our oppressor. Our oppressor does everything that is unthinkable. You understand? So we can't put anything past our oppressor. Go ahead.
MOVE, not an acronym, was a political and religious organization whose principles were anti-government, anti-technology, and anti-corporation. Its creator, John Africa, born Vincent Leofant, was a West Philadelphia native and Korean War veteran whose ideology combined black revolutionary ideas with environmental and animal rights, as well as back to nature movements.
Back to nature movement. Listen, this is the problem with our people, and we always say this, right? All of these organizations fail because they want to be anti-Korean, anti-war, anti-revolutionary ideas, and all of this stuff, and they never one time include the Most High. You understand? And because none of these organizations include the Most High and include these laws, statutes, and commandments, this is why these organizations fall. No organization is going to stand without the Most High when you're fighting for the rights of the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and natives. You understand what I'm saying? When we're fighting for our rights, if the Most High is not included, that organization is going to fall. This is the reason why the Black Panthers fell. This is the reason why the new Black Panthers fall. This is the reason why all of these so-called brainiology people with all of these organizations fall, because they do not include the Most High in these laws, statutes, and commandments. This is the reason why the Isupkbmore is rising right now. You understand? Because we follow the laws, statutes, and commandments. Go ahead. What's that again? Okay, go ahead.
MOVE was founded in 1972 and still exists today. Though its membership numbers are unknown, members live communally and describe themselves as a family, changing their last names to Africa out of reverence for their former and for the continent. In non-violent but disruptive demonstrations, members protested at zoos, pet stores, and political rallies. The group believed in
You said it right.
composing, homeschooling, and a diet of raw foods, and spoke out against war and police brutality. They mentioned a complicated relationship with Philadelphia residents. Some sympathized with their mission, while others found their lifestyle to be disruptive.
Did you see that right there in the beginning that you said they described themselves as family, changing their last names to Africa? That's the problem with our people right there. When we don't know ourselves and we keep calling ourselves Africans and keep relating ourselves to Africa, we will never rise out of this oppression that we're going through. You understand? The oppressor is here to destroy us. And because we don't recognize the Most High, because this group didn't recognize the Most High, this is why they fighting in nonviolent but disruptive demonstrations. Members protesting at zoos for what? Where is that going to get our people? Protesting at zoos and pet stores and political rallies and all that type of stuff. Where is that going to get us? Let me ask a question. Do the Asians protest at zoos and pet stores? Do the so-called Jewish man protest at zoos and pet stores? Why are we protesting at zoos and pet stores and dumb stuff like this? You understand? This is the reason why we are destroyed people. You understand? It says, let's get, this is going to be, this the last scripture right here. Last scripture. We're going to hit 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 and 3. No, not Salakia, sir. My bad. Revelations 18 and 4.
Revelations chapter 18 and verse 4. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, come out of her, my people.
It says, and I heard another voice in heaven saying, come out of her, my people. Listen, Most High tells us to come out of her, my people. We have to come out of these customs and culture of our oppressor. We are always going to be a destroyed people trying to follow behind the oppressor, protesting at zoos and pet stores and rallies, eating raw foods and stuff like that instead of following what the Most High says. We have all our dietary laws. We have all of our how we commune with heathen nations, how we do business with our own people. This book right here is our constitution. The Bible is our constitution. This is how we become unlocked from our oppressor. This is how we come out from under our oppressor. The scripture says, come out from her, my people. You understand what I'm saying? Go ahead.
Sure. That ye be not partakers of her sins.
It says that ye be not partakers of her sins. That ye be not partakers of Christianity. That ye be not partakers of homosexuality. That ye be not partakers of eating shrimp, crab, lobster, and pork. That ye be not partakers of destroying our own people. You understand? It says, come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins. Go ahead.
And that ye receive not of her plagues.
And that ye receive not of her plagues. But we follow our oppressor and we receive of our oppressor's plagues. Our oppressor eats pork and we eat pork behind our oppressor. So we get high blood pressure. So we get the clogged artery. So we get the rheumatism and all of that, and we get the fibroids and thyroids and all of that type of stuff. We are receiving of her plagues because we follow behind our oppressor. The only way we come out from our oppressor, or we come from under our oppressor, is start to follow these laws, statutes, and commandments that were given to us by the Most High. You understand what I'm saying? We have to come back to these laws, statutes, and commandments. You understand? And with that, I'm going to pass the class over to Priest Officer Kawan Palak. That's what's up. That's what's up. Get that priest a hand, man. That's absolutely dynamic, man. That's what's up. All right, let's get to the security announcements. We are the Isupkbmore, 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commanding General Yohana. Commanding General Yohana is a rebel, man. He's a rebel. He is the only leader that will not turn on us, will not do a goddamn Judas on us, man. He is the only one that cares about not only our prosperity, but our right to life. He is the only leader that we should stand behind, man. Because the Chinese, the Japanese, the whites,
The goddamn Africans and every other race of people own everything in our community. We need to know how to address this, man. And this is what the brother was going over today. All the goddamn atrocities that they've done against us. It's ridiculous. We gotta stop listening to the goddamn Mayor Brandon. He allows the Koreans to have all of the business opportunities while we suffer and die. Our children are squeegee kids on the streets of Baltimore. Why? Because we don't have any businesses to give them a job. We can't even help them. We can't even supply them with the minimal amount of needs that make a community work. Our communities, our neighborhoods don't work for us. This is what the priest is trying to tell you. Good night, almighty, man. New rules for brothers and sisters. When a new brother or sister comes into the school, they are off limits for 6 months. They are to be saluted only. They are here to share themselves of the world. After 6 months, if a brother or sister has an interest in a particular person, he or she must get permission from the head to speak to a brother or sister. There is another 6 months in which the brother or sister will court each other. After this 6 month period, the brother or sister will get permission from the head to marry. Tithes, which is a commandment. Pay your tithes, man. Give that money to Commanding General Yohana so he can properly distribute it throughout the communities to help some goddamn people, man. Stop being a selfish bastard. Give Commanding General Yohana the money instead of giving it to the people who give it to their people to continue to usurp the businesses in your damn community. Whatever, man. Tithes, which is a commandment. You can find this in Numbers 18:21 and Malachi 3:8-10. Means tenth in the Hebrew and is pronounced Ma'asherah, 10% of every penny of any increase of the Lord gives you, give to the Treasury Department or teach a priest fund, free will offering, not mandatory whatsoever amount you would like to give. Upcoming Holy Congregation, the Passover is coming up, 4 weeks to go. We going down Houston, Texas. We gonna ride horses and all that shit, man. You know what I'm saying? We gonna do what they do in Texas. We gonna do everything big. Malakwa, all them down in Texas, man. Straight big ups to the Isupkbmore. We gonna do something big in Texas, man. And Commanding General Yohana, as always, is doing it right. He's doing it right. You know what I'm saying? He gonna give hospitality to every black, Hispanic, and Native Indian that wanna come down there and break some bread with the men of the Lord. Much love and respect to Commanding General Yohana. No cowards, man. You know what I'm saying? Take ground, my nigga. Take ground, take ground, take ground. That's what's up. Black Twitter. You understand? One West. Be more strong. That's what we talking about around here, man. Remind Akim and Akuafium to check on social media such as Isupkbmore.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and so on for IGPK events and materials. If a brother wants to be a trooper in the school, then he is to start wearing all black, which includes black boots, shirts, pants, headband, and scarf. Men of Israel. Imagine Shabbat. Imagine Barak. Yabashim Yahshua. That's one courtesy salute to the teacher. Yaji Matah. Class dismissed.
Trying to find something to follow. Had loyalty, every man tried to borrow. Felt pain, Ain't a lot of sorrow, got betrayed, so packed, I didn't even have my heart broke. Living confused about the new hope. Pop got me on the side of the road, like a sideshow. Ain't no before I broke. Now I'm set fire, the rhythm man blue on this guitar smoke. Rap with no cause, trying to find direction. The world got me vexed, picked up a bag, nigga had that's what I heard from my pressure. But like my life was on fire, trying to find the exit. Now look, TNT plus a good break. Sometimes I follow what is a soldier, trying to find a good ship. Tell us you in hell, how do you tell? With the breath of life, I'm believing fairy tale. Listen well to what I tell. No calling can cause pain. Something